Hi, Carrie.
Hi.
Thank you so much for meeting with me today to do my interview for my interview and appraisal class, mock interview. Is there anything you want to talk about today?
Oh, I can talk about work.
Talk about work? What would you like to talk about in regards to work?
Okay, so, you know that I drive, like, from my house to Albany, like, every day, like, 30-minute commute. That's pretty much terrible. I wish I could work in a restaurant that was closer to home, but unfortunately I don't get that opportunity to do that. Because my boss is like, yeah, she's pretty, I don't know, I can't say the word, like, terrible, but I don't think she cares. So, in my store, I got moved in February, without, like, being asked to be moved, which really sucked because I worked in the store before that for, like, 2 years. And so, yeah, like, the commute is shorter because I worked even further away, but then I don't really like that store. It's busier. It keeps me busier, but at the same time, too, like, it kind of sucks because it's, you know, it's further. It's different people. Not further, it's different people. Less further, but different people. And, I don't know. Guess it was hard at first to transfer. Like, really emotional, if you can imagine, because, like, you get stuck with all these people who know how you work and know your expectations, and then you just get literally thrown with, like, no notice for anybody. And that was really hard. Like, cried for days. I didn't think I was going to stop crying, but it's been 2 months now, so it's better than it's been. And, like, the people are really different. Like, it's weird working in different stores because when you work in different restaurants, like, you work with different people, but, like, working here in Salem and working in, like, Albany, Lebanon area, there's, like, a whole different demographic of people, and the people that want to work are just totally different. And I noticed that's the thing with the Albany to Lebanon. It's like 20 minutes from each other, but the people that work there, just the quality of people is pretty frustrating. Like, a lot.
So it's hard because you have the commute, and then your boss you're not super fond of, and then just all, like, the different people makes it difficult for you?
Yeah, definitely. The people are getting better, but it's not fun to go into a store where you have to be, like, totally mean to people in order to, like, you know. And then that's the part of the thing that was hard with the transitioning because everyone knew me and knew how I worked. And then you go to the store and everyone wants to push your buttons to see how far they can get away with stuff. And then you have to be mean to people, which I don't naturally want to be mean to people. And it took and then only that was I'm, like, upset because having to transfer restaurants, but then I had to be, like, this totally kind of opposite person as to who I am naturally. And because those people needed a hard thumb, they weren't used to having somebody there who was gonna, like, this is what I want to get done, this is what we're doing, you have no other choice, you know. So it's like I said, it's been interesting. We have I have some great crew members, and I have an assistant manager that's, I don't know, she's one of those people who's, like, wants to please people all the time, but she doesn't take the initiative. And I miss my assistant manager from the other store because I wish she would be like her. I know everyone can't be like each other, but it's like, you know, because when you were stuck with somebody for 2 years and then you get to lose them and you have to retrain somebody, and she's always looking for validation. And not that I'm not willing to give validation to her, it's just that I'm just, like, not wanting to, like, I don't want to babysit somebody or constantly tell them, like, hey, you're doing a great job. I got told by one of my shift leaders the other day that I don't encourage them enough. So I'm working on that because apparently I only tell them when they're doing stuff wrong, which is good because I think it's good that, I guess, that shift leader, her name is Stevie, she can tell me, like, hey, you know, I'm glad that she can be honest enough with me to be like, hey, you're not encouraging people. You're just constantly telling us stuff. And, you know, that's something I guess I have to work on.
Mm-hmm.
But when you come into a store that's like that, you kind of have to, you know, be a little bit more, like, you know,
right.
on top of them.
Right, with like a firm hand, like you were saying.
Yeah.
Right. Do you, like, you talked about, like, how frustrated you are? Tell me more about that.
Well, it's just tiring. More so, I guess frustration comes from being tired, just from, like, being, not being supported. The first month I was there, we were waiting for a re-inspection. My boss was constantly there, which is exhausting in its own sense. And then, but a good thing too. But then she just disappears. And she disappears because she knows I can handle it. But it would be nice to have a little bit more support. And because the team I have is like they're not up to par. I wouldn't, you know, and I'm getting people in, but to find quality people in that area is so hard. You know, I get a handful, and then, like, I'll hire, like, I just lost 2 people last week with no call, no shows. Like, they don't even show up to work. Like, who doesn't show up to work?
Right.
And when you have people who are, you know, you get good quality people, and then you turn around and you lose half of them for stupid reasons or whatever, and it's, like, constantly a game of catch-up. And it's that area, because I never went through that going and working up here. And I know I went through for a short period of time in Lebanon when I was running that store, but never for any kind of, like, the time. And I don't know if it's because of the busyness. I know that there's always factors to why people leave and everything else, but, like, I don't know if it's because of the busyness or if it's because whatever. The shift managers, whatever. People complain more than anything. I think that's the worst part, is how often people complain. Yeah. Like, they don't just, like, they just complain. They're complainers. It's ridiculous.
Right. So the complaining frustrates you, it makes you tired, and just, like, all that kind of is the most, like, from what I hear, is the most frustrating.
Yeah, definitely. The complaining. Yeah. I mean, it's hard because, like I said, my assistant is not up to par. I guess I would say par to what I'm used to. Right. And so when she can't handle the complaints, she comes to me. But then I'm getting complaints from her, and it's like, you're giving me everyone else's complaints. You're not solving problems yourself. It's not hard, but I haven't had time to mold her and create what I want out of her. And I don't know if I really want to take the time with her. As harsh as that sounds, but she's not really quality. And, like, I couldn't see her ever running a restaurant. So I don't know why I would spend the time with her. And then I feel bad because I say that because I think everyone has potential, but then when you, like, you don't want to give people the opportunity, but she's from a different kind of people, and her responsibility level is not nearly where it should be, and she just doesn't, like, take responsibility and doesn't, like I said, take initiative. And that's the thing that's frustrating, is you have to have somebody who's willing to have your back. And then when I get thrown into a 1, higher volume restaurant, 2, into a store that is a mess, and then 3, into a store that has very little support, once my boss walked out the door, then you have, like, no, you know, there's no, what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, it just creates this exhaustion level that's just through the roof.
Right.
Oh, exhaustion.
Right. Well, you're exhausted. I mean, you now are in a different place, these different people. There's a different level of, like, responsibility for you in a way, just because of the people you're working with. So, what else do you feel like from your job?
I mean, right now it's kind of like a tiny tad, I guess I could say a tad bit exciting. We're getting a remodel, but that even adds more pressure and stress. It's cool because I'm gonna in a month or so get to work in a store that is beautiful. Like, who doesn't want to work in a restaurant that's absolutely beautiful looking? Right. But at the same time, too, again, that adds stress. But good things. I'm starting to really like some of my people, but not all of them. And I felt like when I left Lebanon, after being there, I bonded so well with my people that I told myself I wasn't going to do that again. And that sounds terrible, but I didn't want to put myself through emotional heartbreak again, because it was really tough to be able to leave all of them and then to, like, not see them, not interact with them. I know everything about everyone's lives in Lebanon. And I was like, I'm not going to do that again. But I do feel like I'm connecting with some of the people there. And eventually, once the store's straightened out, I am in a higher volume restaurant, which will allow me to be off the floor. It will allow me to be, like, less stressed. It will, but it's going to take time to get there. And unfortunately, it doesn't happen in a month or 2 months. Or now, you know, we're headed into month, like, 3 or 4 now. But unfortunately, we don't get that slowdown because we're headed into a reno. And then when the reno's over, then we're going to be busy. But if I can get the staffing up and everything else, I think I could survive. Eventually.
So survive, just like getting through everything.
Yeah, definitely just getting through everything right now. Like, it's just kind of like treading water, you know, and I think it's going to be nice when it's done with, because we'll definitely be able to, I mean, it does allow, when you work in a higher volume store, you have more money for this, you have more money for that, there's less stress, but you have to get it to the point where it's settled in order to do so. And if you don't have the right staffing, you don't have the right management team and everything else, it becomes a disaster. But I'm hopeful that eventually it will get to the point where it needs to be.
Good. I'm glad you sound hopeful. Tell me more about being hopeful, just about, like, going to your job and being a little bit more happy.
Okay. I've been working with a girl, so because I've been working with one of my shift managers to promote her to an assistant. And this girl's, like, game for anything. And she reminds me of my assistant from Lebanon. And I love that about her because she's straightforward. She's the one that told me that I was not encouraging enough, which I appreciated, because you have to be able to interact. And sometimes, you know, people need to correct my behavior, too. So I'm really working with her to try to promote her. Maybe replace my other one that I said that I don't really feel like has potential. And it's hard, though, because has some obstacles in her way, personally, that's been putting it off, and that's a little frustrating. But again, like you said, hopeful. So I'm hopeful that she will maintain her goals so that we can push her in that position, and ultimately we can keep her or get her into this, you know, correct position that she deserves to be in. So, but she'll have my back, which is the best part about it. So
she'll have your back. How?
Support. Like, I mean, the most important part is that the restaurant manager and assistant manager are on the same page, right? And so if you have an assistant manager who's either undermining your authority, which if you're not in the building, they do the opposite of what you're expecting them to do, or if they just don't problem solve, then they put all the pressure on you to always constantly solve the issues. And that's not what I want to deal with. Now, what I like about Stevie is because that she solves her own problems. She doesn't come to me with an issue. She comes to me with, this is the problem, this is what I've done, are you okay with it? And sometimes I won't be, and sometimes I will be, but I like that she takes the initiative to solve her own problems, right? Which is what's lacking of my current assistant manager. So that's what I mean by having their back.
Right.
We have to be on the same page. And sometimes I feel like my current assistant manager is not on the same page with me.
Right.
So.
Which sounds hard because you've gone from all these different stores. You went from a store where you had an assistant manager that was right there with you to going to a store where you kind of have to find that person somehow. Yeah,
definitely. Especially when you transition, you have to take time to get to know people. And like when I first met her, I felt like she was a people pleaser. You know, those people who are just like constantly like trying to like suck up to you. But I realized, getting to know her, that she's like she's not talk. She's like work your butt off, and then she's willing to she walks the walk. And I really do. I do like that about her in general. Just, you don't find that, but then you do have to take the time to get to know them, and that's why some people who can't instantly be like unwilling to or judge. Sorry, you can't instantly judge because sometimes the quality people are the people who you don't think at first are the ones that are going to stick around.
Right.
So.
Yeah. So she's a go-getter.
Yeah, it's nice. Definitely something that I appreciate. I think is a quality that reminds me of me, quality. It definitely reminds me of my current, or my old assistant manager in Lebanon. And it's that idea of, like, you don't want to be stagnant in a position, and you're willing to do whatever it takes to get there. So that's why I was saying I was hoping that she overcomes some of her obstacles personally so that we can get her up and getting her promoted. So, because it would be awesome to have her as a salaried manager and know that she's going to bust her butt for me and she's going to work with me and keep me focused.
Right. Yeah, because that's what you've been saying, that you're, like, lacking right now is, like, that, well, not necessarily focus, but, like, the support that you feel like if you had a really good assistant, like, you would be, like, very much, you know, you'd feel better about all these, like, transitions and leaving stores from, like, Lebanon, you said, and then somewhere up here to, like, going all the way down there.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. It's one of those things that would be really nice to have in that position, but I definitely understand that, what you're saying. So.
No, for sure, yeah. Sounds like your job is very frustrating at times, you know, all the moving around and the commuting, the boss, you know, even though it's a boss, can't pick them. And then the crew members, which you've talked about, but it sounds like you feel like you're getting closer to some and really working with others, which makes your job, like you said, more hopeful and a little bit better. So, well, thank you so much for doing this little interview with me.
Yeah, thank you for sitting down and talking to me. I appreciate it.
Thank you.